Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so used to saying good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Helena. Helena Nat. I'm the Executive Director with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. It's Small Business Friday, and we're really excited about the support that we've been getting, the interest we've been getting. It's a full day of webinars of providing information on running your small business, especially during this I always say, you know, COVID or turbulent, it's an interesting time. I don't like to use those words anymore. We're just here to provide you information to make sure that you're building back your business. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany Donaldson. She is the host of this webinar. We really appreciate her support with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. She's going to be going over the New York phase 1 and 2, and as much information, because everything is always changing every single minute. So I just wanted to turn it over to Tiffany, and thank you very much. By the way, everyone put your information in the chat. Tiffany will be looking at the chat and providing a Q&A after her presentation.
Okay,
Go
take
ahead.
it away. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for joining, especially at this 1 o'clock on a Friday. That's devotion. I hope you had your lunchtime and I keep you awake. So this is the, how to reopen New York, phase 1 and 2. Just want to introduce myself real quick. So my name's Tiffany Donaldson. I'm a business attorney in New York. And basically I've been doing employment law and business law for 10 years. And I help small businesses mainly with pretty much anything from formation, these loan issues, reopening, and employment issues being one of the hottest topics right now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see the webinar. And we're going to get going. So like Helena said, you can chat me at any time. It's the easiest way because what we're going to do is go through sections of things. So if you have a question that goes with the section we're on, go ahead and chat me. That way I can answer you kind of when I have a time to answer, and that way I can see everybody's questions. So right now we have a question off the bat, which I'll get to in a second. So the person that chatted me, let me do a little intro and I'll get back to you. All right, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. This is me. This is a little bit about me, my business. But I'll go ahead and get into the agenda. So this is an aggressive agenda. And so we're probably not going to get through everything. So I'm going to try to go through the highlights. I usually do this in an hour, and we got 45 minutes. So I'm going to blaze through these topics. And if you have a specific question, we'll go over it. So basically what this is, it's the New York Safety Plan for Business webinar. This is provided for free on the New York Forward website, and I'll show you that website in a minute. So the safety plan itself is available for you. If you have a business, you need to go download it, and you need to fill it out. And as you see, going through to fill it out, everything we're about to talk about herein is coming out of that safety plan. So we're not just talking about what's in it, but how to actually implement it. So that's our goal today, is to understand what we need to do, and then how to actually do it. So I want to let you know that as a result of the free webinar, I am offering a legal package, which is everything you need to reopen baseline. There's also industry-specific guidance. So I also want to clarify that this webinar is for everybody in the state of New York that has a business. Everyone has to follow and have a safety plan about how their business is going to protect each other from the spread of COVID-19. That's what this is all about. Within the safety plan are all of these different things that the safety plan requires you to have that we're going to go through. And so I'm offering this as a package if you don't want to go through and do them all yourself. So that's a little pitch for me. All right, so I already covered this. Did you know you are required, if you have a business with basically a workspace where people are interacting in New York, to have a safety plan. And this is from newyorkforward.gov. This is a website where you will go figure out what phase are you in. I've had people ask me, well, what phase am I in? Go to forward.newyork.gov and check. See which you're phase 1 or phase 2. If you're not in either of those phases, check back till they have phase 3 information, because not even all the information's up there yet. Then it has specific guidance for industries: retail, restaurants, construction, manufacturing, hairdressers, the list goes on and on. That's where you need to go to find these additional steps for your industry. Can't do all that in 45 minutes. So this is for everybody's workplace, but there could be more specific things for your workplace. So just keep that in mind. So I have to address this question real quick that someone chatted me. So they're asking, do you need a COVID release statement for employees? So we're going to go through and talk about how to protect yourself from employees throughout the webinar. But I will say, I'll take you back to my plan, that you're not required to have a COVID release statement, but it's highly suggested, and that's for legal reasons. And we'll go over that in just a minute as we go over the legal reasons behind following these plans. All right, so I'm going to give you guys the quick version of this. Why do you want to follow this New York safety plan? Why do you want to implement it? Not just blow the rules, say forget it, we're going to sit as close to each other as we want, and no one's going to wear their mask. Why don't you want to do that? The answer is that you need to protect your business from being sued from its customers and from its own employees, anybody that's coming into your business space. So let's talk about that real quick. Generally, the bottom baseline idea is that an employer won't be sued if someone gets sick at work. And if they got sick because of some kind of exposure based on where they worked, and it was considered an occupational disease, then maybe they could collect under workers' comp. That is the baseline general idea. So I'm giving you guys the fast version of this. However, and the big however is that if a workplace does not take reasonable steps to protect their employees, and they basically either take intentional or wanton and reckless disregard for their employees' health or their customers' health, that is the time when someone could go past workers' comp and get to the employer and actually sue the business or even sue the individual. So when we're talking about all of these things under a safety plan, we are saying to do them for health reasons. That's excellent. But we're really telling you to do them to protect your business from future lawsuits. And when you're working with your attorney, that's where our mind always is. We're thinking about that for you. So as we go through all these requirements, think about them as your evidence in court to show that you acted reasonably in protecting your employees. So New York State has made it easy for you to demonstrate that you acted reasonably. They've given you guidelines. The guidelines are the safety plan, and they're also the industry-specific guidelines for your industry. If you follow those and you document it, then you should be fine, because you're going to be able to show in court. It doesn't mean someone wouldn't sue you. It just means you'd be able to show in court that you didn't act recklessly, that you did all these steps that were required. And if COVID spreads anyways, and you did everything that you reasonably were supposed to, it's not going to come back to you. You're going to be able to defend yourself in court, and that's why we're here. Also, we want to protect people's health. All right. So this is how someone can get to you if you fail to really take reasonable steps to protect their health. So what's reasonable during COVID-19? All right. So straight from the safety plan, we have the mask requirement, and everybody's heard about it on the news. And you're wondering, do they really have to wear their mask at work? And this is the exact answer from the safety plan. So employers are required to provide the masks to the employees, meaning that you have to go get a stash. You need to have a supplier. You need to have a lot of them on hand. Your employees can wear their own, but they're not required to. But you are required to have some for them every day, multiple, I would suggest, because maybe they go to lunch and they lose their mask. What happens if you can't find masks? The government actually says you can't be open. If you can't find masks and you can't give them out, then you can't be open. So finding masks in a mask source is a big deal, because right now they seem to be everywhere, but as everyone opens up, it's possible you can find another shortage. So I'm telling people you might want to stock up now while they seem to be around before something else goes down and you can't open because you don't have masks. It's not going to be good. So this could be critical. So that's something important to know. Okay, so spacing and masks go together. So anytime people are closer than 6 feet apart in the office, they have to wear their mask. So that is the mask rule. One of my other chamber associates, Steve Isaacson, he's selling face masks. If you don't know where to find masks, he's selling the kind that you can wash, or they have different other ways of cleaning. But he also has hand sanitizer and different supplies. So if you need a supplier, he said you can reach out to him and he can help you find anything that you need related to that. All right, so spacing, like we said, you have to be 6 feet apart or else you have to wear a mask. Another major consideration that every employer needs to understand is the occupancy requirement. This is for phase 1 and 2. This could change, and if it changes, then it'll be major news. But I have a feeling it's going to stay like this for a while. Right now, you cannot have more than 50% of your normal legal occupancy in any space in the city. So office space to restaurants, you know, if you're open at all, you cannot have more than 50% capacity. Now yours could be more stringent than that. I don't want to mislead you, but for phase 1 and 2, 50% capacity. How do you know what is 50% capacity? You actually can look at the certificate of occupancy for that room, which has to go with the fire code, how many people can be in there. Cut that in half. Doesn't necessarily mean half your staff, because maybe you weren't already there. So I would say check it out, know what it really means. And then you got to start to think through it. So if you want to be fully open, but only half your staff can be there at a time, small place, you have to start thinking about, okay, what are you going to do next? So one option is for employees to stay home that can work from home. The government is actually encouraging people that if they can work from home, and encouraging employers to let them work from home. Just because you can come into the office, the government really doesn't necessarily want you coming in. They only want people invited in who need to be there for the function of the company. So first of all, think about being able to let those people stay home and who really needs to come in. So let them come in. And then if it's a type of business where everyone has to be in for it to work, you want to start thinking about shifts. Think about having some people come in a whole lot earlier and work till like lunch. Have other people come in after lunch and work later, so that you can accommodate the workspace but not have the people in there at the same time. So that could be a solution. So you're going to have to think about how it can work for you to maximize your business under these rules. All right, so that's a major one to know. The 6 feet apart is another consideration. It's more something you need to think through about how your employees are going to handle this. So if you can, if they have desks and you can move them at least 6 feet apart, then people can take off their mask and they can just work regular. But if they need to go use the microwave or they're going to go into the lobby, they need to put their mask on. They're going to be closer than 6 feet to people, need to wear their mask. And if they're sitting closer than 6 feet together, then they're going to have to wear their mask all day. And so you're going to have to figure out if your staff can handle this and how they can work. Because if you have people just willy-nilly flaunting the rules and saying, I don't like masks, it's not just their problem, it's everyone's problem. But it's mostly your problem. Because when they get someone else sick and that person sues you and says you didn't follow the reasonable protocols because you did not make your staff wear masks as required, you're now flaunting that line of being protected as an employer by general workers' comp and not, and having, you know, no disregard or no regard for the health of your employees because you couldn't implement your rules. So it's not just about setting up the rule. It's about being the principal. You're the principal, you're not the kids. And you have to institute how serious the rule is. And one of the reasons we were talking about having somebody sign a COVID release statement, or basically having them acknowledge that they need to follow the new COVID rules that you're setting for the workplace, is so that you can then discipline them if they don't. So what I suggest as an attorney is to give a disclosure that they need to follow the new rules. Not, you can say that they won't sue you, but that's not really what they're necessarily going to agree to. I mean, we can put that in there. It's questionable as to whether it would be upheld. But as long as you act reasonably, if they get sick at work, their only recourse is workers' comp. only way they could get to you anyway is if you don't act reasonably. So you want to require them to follow these rules, and you want to make sure that you're instituting them and following them, because all of this is in the name of protecting your business from lawsuits, from someone getting COVID. They could pass away, they could be seriously sick and injured, and you don't want to be on the hook for any of those expenses. So the state isn't saying that if you can't guarantee 6 feet that you just can't be open. They're just saying if the safety or core function of the work requires shorter distance, which I think you could take to mean, you know, it's not possible to get these people 6 feet apart and operate, then you are allowed to have them come in. They just have to wear their mask. So that's the rule that they're putting forward. You also are required, and it's all from the safety plan, you're required to post social distancing markers. So this is just like at the grocery store. You have the tape, and you tape and say, oh, 6 feet back from here is this spot. They want you to do that too, because you're in charge of the workspace. So if you're at a co-working space, if you have like a shared desk or a shared area, you're not in control of the workspace, then you're not the one in charge of doing this. The co-working space will be having to do these postings and spacing for you, because they have to follow these rules as well. But if you have your own office or you have your own workspace, whatever it is, then you're the one controlling it, and you're the one that needs to put up these social distancing markers, just like the grocery store and other places you see. Okay, so there's the required postings from the safety plan is social distancing signage. So you're required to put up signage. They didn't say specific signage. They just said signage. So they're leaving it open to you to put appropriate posters and things around where is appropriate to put them. So some of the suggestions are, you know, it's the same posters that you see other places. Remember, stay 6 feet back. Wear your mask. Wash your hands, things like that. So there's a lot of these posters are provided by the CDC, or you can find other ones on the internet. There's a wide range, fun, different types of art, and they don't care which one you use. They just want you to put them up. And so what I'm telling everybody to do is to put them up and then take a picture. So odds are if somebody gets COVID and sues you at some point claiming you didn't actually, you know, take this seriously and follow the rules, it's going to be years later, usually. And if the office is back to the normal workplace, you're not going to have evidence that you followed all these rules. So I encourage you, once you deck the place out in signage and postings, take a picture, save it for your legal records. So tight spaces is just the same thing as the 6 feet. So if you have a small conference room, somebody can be in there by themselves. They can take off their mask. But if it's in a multiple people in a small space, like you have to share a small conference room, you don't have any other option, then when you guys get together, you need to wear your mask. So that's just another part of that. Okay, so the cleaning protocol. This comes from the safety plan. You are required to instill cleaning protocols, and the minimum frequency that you have to clean your space is daily, and it's basically mandated under the safety plan. Things that they want you to really keep an eye on is areas that are shared. And so you want to think through your workplace and think about the things that are touched and shared by people the most. And it really depends on your workplace. So if you're in a restaurant, it might be the micros where people order and they're all touching the same screen. You need to think through, what is the cleaning plan for that? How are you going to keep people from infecting each other by touching the same surface frequently? In an office environment, what it often common can be is pens and staplers. I don't know how many times I've seen people sharing pens with no gloves and no hand sanitizer. And that to me is one of the #1 ways people touch their mouth by accident, touch the pen, and now you've got COVID. So if you're in an environment where you ask people to sign or think, be cognizant, have extra pens, don't share the pen. These little things can be a big deal. And then if you have supplies, office supplies that people share, or let's say everybody uses the copier and it's a touch screen, that's the stuff you want to put in your cleaning policy, which we're about to talk about. meaning you need to sit down and think through these new things, these new cleaning rigors, and then put them into a policy. So what is the cleaning policy? So the safety plan requires you to create a cleaning policy. And in the cleaning policy, you simply want to identify what areas need to be cleaned, how frequently, and who's going to do it, and with what products. If you're wondering if a product is something you can use, check the CDC website. It has an entire database of products. You can't even put a link. It's an entire database of every product ever that that can fight COVID. But if you're going to use something from the grocery store, just make sure that it's a germ killer, right? Don't go through all this extent and not use something harsh enough to kill COVID, right? So make sure you have something stringent. So you want to make a cleaning policy. So I just reiterate that I have a package, and a cleaning policy, as you can see, is part of that. So if you don't want to draft your own, you could use my draft. Okay, so another thing that goes along with the cleaning is the cleaning log. So the cleaning log is simply just like what you see in McDonald's or another fast food restaurant in the restrooms. You can see they have like who cleaned, what date, basically usually they sign. That's what you need. And you're required to have it under the safety plan to be kept daily and for each area that you are responsible for. So just have one area, you just need one log. And if you have multiple different areas, multiple floors, keep a log for each part, make it a lot easier. You won't be running around looking for the log. But you want to make sure that you do it. And so one of the people that I work with has a cleaning solution. If you're interested, a lot of people are having questions about how to accomplish all of this cleaning, especially people with more professional offices or doctor's offices, dentists, anybody where health and hygiene is at the highest safety, but really anybody with a large enough space that cleaning is taking a long time to do this every day. One of these cleaning methods is called the electrostatic sprayer, and it has its own features that let it basically wrap around products and things in your office so that you don't have to scrub every surface ever. And they actually use this on the Princess cruise ship that was infected. So this is the type of thing that you may want to look into. So this is one of my associates, if you're interested in getting a cleaning package. They actually sell you the sprayer itself so that you can clean every day. And it's pretty efficient and effective way if you're interested in that product. If you actually get that product, it includes my legal package, so you save. So the next thing related with cleaning, and I'll get on to the next subject, is hand hygiene. So yes, you do have to have a place where people can wash their hands, but most office type settings already do. So they're just saying that people need to have general access to hand washing stations. If you're in an alternative type of work site where there isn't a lot of hand washing areas going on, then you're required to provide the hand sanitizer with 60% plus or more alcohol. However, I'm telling everybody it's not a bad idea to go out of pocket and let your different employees have their own hand sanitizer, big or small, because that way it encourages use at the desk or use, in their area. So it can't hurt, but that's the minimum requirement, just so you're aware. All right, if you didn't have enough plans already, the next plan that the safety plan requires is a communication plan. And this is simply appointing somebody to be in charge of the information for your business. So it's likely going to be your HR person or some of your management. What you want to do is, first of all, you want to update everybody's contact information. So this all is in the idea of if someone at the workplace got COVID. So if someone needed to be informed and, I don't know, it was their last day of work or something, you just want to make sure you have everybody's updated contact information, telephone, email, so that you can let them know if they need to know. You also want to have somebody that's in charge of communicating, especially visitors and other people that come into the office. We're going to talk about the contact tracing log. So this would maybe be the person that you put in charge of collecting the contact tracing log every day. keeping everybody's contacts so that in case something happened, you got a point person for communication. That brings us to the contact log. So this is also required by the safety plan. The contact log is just that. It's just a continuous log, but each work site needs to keep it every day. All workers who come there, all visitors, anybody who comes in needs to be recorded on this log. The exception is if you have customers who are coming into your work environment, ideally you want them to sign the log. But if they refuse, you really can't make them. Your employees, you can make because it's their job on the line. So why do you need to keep the contact tracing log? If someone gets COVID, which we're about to talk about, you are going to need to report it to the health department. The health department's going to say, where's your contact tracing log? So that we can contact everybody that's been around this employee in the last week or two. You need to have it, because if you don't have it, that shows you're not following the safety plan. So they're going to come down and see what else you're not doing. And it can result in fines and enforcement. So you don't want to be that group. So this is really for everybody's protection. We're not interested in their emails. We're not after their address. We just are getting it to be able to inform them for safety purposes. So, people can hopefully feel assured about that. All right, I'm going fast because this is a short time period. This is something I think most people don't realize is probably the biggest bombshell of the webinar, is that a health questionnaire is required to be completed by each employee that you're bringing into a workspace every day. So the questionnaire should include these 3 questions, and this is from the safety plan. Have you had COVID-19 symptoms the past 14 days? Have you tested positive in the past 14 days? Or have you been in close contact with somebody suspected or having COVID? Now, obviously, if they answer yes to one of these questions, then they're not invited into the workplace. Just reminding you, I have that in my package. Okay. So what are the symptoms? The symptoms you can find on the CDC webpage. Since we don't have a lot of time here, you can just check them out for yourself. They do tend to keep growing, so you do kind of want to keep abreast of what are the current symptoms. Okay, when you collect this information, the daily health information, you got to be really careful with it, because this is considered HIPAA protected health information. What does that mean? Employers need to store this information separately, so you don't want to mix the daily health questionnaires that are coming in. So my health questionnaire and Helena's should not be in the same folder. It shouldn't be in the same pile. Somebody needs to be taking control of these records, and what you need to do is create a health record for each employee. It should not even be the same record as their employment folder. And that has to do with if the records get subpoenaed, you don't want to turn over somebody's employment record and in there lurks some health information. So because it's highly protected and there's special rules around it. So when you get in these health questionnaires, however you get them in, whether they're email, you make them fill them out on paper, you want to file them by employee in each employee's medical record. Now you can keep them online if you want, but be cognizant not to share with other employees the health information. So that's the record keeping. Not only that, if you can believe it, a health questionnaire log is required, which means the person who is collecting the health questionnaires every day needs to log every day that they did this. They don't need to log the answers, but they need to say, okay, it's today's date and I collected the logs from these 6 employees. That you can mix because it doesn't have health information. It's just the fact that you got it in. So not only do you need to get the questionnaires in, the person accepting them needs to log that they collected them. So to be compliant, that's the rules. All right, so I'm gonna go real fast through some things about having COVID and temperatures, and then we'll take some questions because there's not enough time for all this information, but I wanna get to the big questions. So I'm gonna go through temperatures fast. Can you require employees to have their temperature taken? The answer is yes. Right now, because of the ongoing pandemic, it's allowed. You can require it either at the door or you can require them to take their temperature before they come in. Then the next question is, should you? And so there are pros and cons to doing this. So first of all, if you're collecting temperature information from people and you're keeping a record, that also needs to go in their health record, and it also shouldn't be mixed. So you shouldn't have a list of who's coming in at the door and what their temperature was, because that's mixing their temperature information. That's not allowed. So what you need to do is have each employee has a page, and when they're at the door, you find their page and you write their record on their page so that all their stuff's on their page. If you're going to go that far and do it at the door. If one of the pros of doing it at the door and keeping records is that it helps show how reasonable you're being in protecting everyone. You're taking an extra step. You're going out of your way, and you're, watching temperatures at the door. But you have to watch out. You can't screen in front of other people, because if you take my temperature and send me home, it's quite blatant that I had a fever. That's medical information. So now you know that I have a fever. You're not supposed to know that. So you need to make it private. You need to put up a screen or something, or do it in a little room. But if you're in a little room, you got to wear your mask. You want to make sure the person doing the screening has all the PPE so that they don't get COVID by being too close to people they're screening. So there's a lot that spins out from just the simple idea of taking temperatures at the door. That's why I'm a fan of taking temperatures at home. You can actually require them in the health questionnaire to affirm they don't have a fever that day. That way they have to take their temperature at home, and you don't have to deal with it, but you still have a record of them not having a fever. So that's a suggestion. All right, so the main question that I want to get to before we wrap up is, what happens? What happens if somebody has a fever? What happens if they have symptoms of COVID or test positive? Okay, so if someone has a fever, they need to go home or they're not invited in. But then they have to wait 72 hours before they come back, because it could be a symptom of COVID. And so you want them to wait the appropriate amount of time that the CDC says, so they don't just come right back in and infect people the next day. So I'm going to take the chat real quick. Somebody said, what's the link to the safety plan? I'll put it in at the end. And somebody asked, will we share the presentation yet? I'm happy to share it. I'm going to put the slides up on my LinkedIn, and then we can send through a link for everybody. Yeah, health questionnaire is every day. Do you have to put their temperature in a log every day? It's your option. If you take someone's temperature, you can either log it or not. One of the pros of logging it, remember, each person has their own sheet. You're not going to log it like this. You're going to log it sheet by sheet. It's evidence, right? It's evidence you took temperatures at the door. If you didn't keep a log, you took temperatures at the door and you didn't take a picture, it'd be hard to prove in a couple of years that you did it. So if you're going to go that far and you're going to keep them correctly, I don't see the problem behind logging it. On the other hand, it's onerous. And so what you could do is just take temperature at the door, and if they have a fever, send them home without writing things down. And there's no requirement that you even take temperature, right? So either way is fine. It's going to be what your business is more comfortable with and how stringent you guys are being. I know I have a couple companies that deal with children, and they're being very stringent because of their clientele. So might just have to be based on what your business is. All right, so real quick, if someone tests positive for COVID, first, obviously, you got to send them home. Then you need to contact the health department, who's going to come in and ask you for all these logs. And they may have to shut down your office for up to like 48 hours, depending on how long that person, is in the office and things. So don't be surprised if that happens. People that work directly with the person are going to be told to quarantine for 14 days. So don't be surprised if that happens. It's going to be a huge effect on your staff if one person in a small space gets the COVID. Now, this is really important. You cannot tell anybody the name of somebody who tests positive for COVID. So you might know as the employer, the manager maybe, but you're not at liberty to share that information. You can only share that someone that works close to them tested positive. You can even say the date, but you can't say who. And other people say, well, what if they guess? They guess, it's okay, but do not tell them who, because that's their protected medical information. So you're skirting a very fine line here between letting people know they've been exposed, but not by who. If the person shouts it from the rooftop that it was them, that's their problem. But as the employer, you can't do it. So this is a suggested way to phrase it, which I know we're going fast. I send it to you guys, so I want to get to the next part. Okay, so when can they come back? If they have COVID, they have to be out at least 10 days, and then they can come back after they've had no COVID symptoms for 72 hours. If they're quarantining, they have to be out 14 days. And that's because once you have it, you're already into the cycle. Quarantining, you're not sure if you have it or not, so you have to wait the whole entire exposure period. And once again, no symptoms for the past 72 hours. So let's talk about somebody, they have COVID, they feel fine, they feel great. Can they work from home? Yes, if they have that type of job. So it's okay to send them home and they do work from home. That's totally fine. But if they can't work from home, so they can't telework or they don't feel good, they don't have to do work. Well, what happens then? They're at home, they're not working. First is the Family First Coronavirus Response Act leave, which is allowed to be taken by people with symptoms of coronavirus or have been diagnosed. If you don't know about this leave, we're going to have another webinar on this that I'll invite you to. I've been saying I'm going to have it for the next couple of weeks, but I know a lot of people want to learn more about it. I also have slides on it on my website, but I think the webinar is more interesting. If they use that up, which is 2 weeks of leave, then they can use whatever leave they already have from your company. So Family First Coronavirus is in addition to it. Once they use up all their leave, now they can go out on disability or New York paid family leave for coronavirus, which is another new thing. You don't have to pay them out of your pocket is the point. Once they're running out of leave, they're out. It's just like they're out on any other type of disability. If you get to this point with somebody, please contact your local attorney or your accountant or somebody to help you fill out these forms and make sure you're doing everything you can. Like with Family First Coronavirus Response Act, you actually get money back through the government when somebody goes out on that leave, but there's certain filing you have to do. So we can talk about that one another time because we're getting toward the end. So I'm going to answer some of these questions. Well, okay. I actually think I answered the questions that are up here. So I don't know if Helena wants to open up the lines or if anybody wants to chat me a question.
Yeah, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. This has been so informative. Tiffany, we're going to have you come back. So
Okay.
definitely,
It's hard to,
this is
yeah.
so important. And I think,
this is a lot of information. Yeah.
It is a lot of information. Anyone have any questions? Put it in the chat. Wow.
Oh, maybe it's been succinct.
Do these rules apply to businesses of any size?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and the answer is yes. Every size and any size. There's no exemption. What I would say is if you have a business that's working from home, where you don't have a workspace, so no one's interacting, then I wouldn't worry too much about it. These rules are for once you're back in a workspace where people are interacting with each other. And somebody asked about OSHA, about the OSHA rules. So OSHA is the Occupational Safety and Health Act and Administration. And their rules apply to places with 10 or more employees. But the New York City actually basically stole OSHA's overarching guidelines and holds them out to people who do business in the city. So the same standards of OSHA, which is just basically having a workplace that's free from hazards, is also implemented through the city. So, if you have 9 employees, you don't want to be flaunting the OSHA, hazard rule. The other side of that is if you have an OSHA violation, which means you have a hazard in the workplace, the only way OSHA can enforce it is with fines and penalties. OSHA doesn't actually bring the lawsuit for the person injured. That's a personal injury lawsuit. And like I said, if it makes its way outside of workers' comp, it has to be drastic. It has to be you didn't do something that you were supposed to do. And one of the ways that these tort attorneys are going to be all over it is to say, oh, well, here's the guidelines for COVID. You didn't attempt to follow it. Nobody here has a mask. Everybody's sitting right next to each other. What did you think you were doing? So that's the problem. And so that's why you want to go back through this webinar. I want to send you the slides and you want to make sure you get each of these logs and you want to follow it. It's a burden. It's annoying. People are not going to like you. That's why you're the employer. You need to enforce the rules to protect your business. And that's the point of my webinar. So.
Thank you. This was so informative. Thank you so much. I can't even get the words out because I'm so overwhelmed for just our business as a business, you know, from the chamber, let alone on behalf of other businesses. But it really, the learning lesson is just document everything.
Yeah, to just take it serious, get the safety plan. I'll give them, the link is on this site here. I'll go back so you guys can see the link. I'll see if I can paste it. Oh, it's all the way at the front.
And where is this PowerPoint going to be? Can you send me a copy just in case people?
Yeah, I'll send it right to you and we can send it out.
Yeah, this way, and then they can go
free.
into LinkedIn, but just in case they can't get into LinkedIn or whatever.
Let me see, where did my New York safety plan? Okay, so this is the link. People say, where's the New York safety plan? This is the link. It's just forward.ny.gov. Once you go there, you'll see phase 1 and phase 2. And you pick the phase that your business is in, or click on each one, find your business. Then within those pages, you'll see the safety plan. For every industry, it's the same safety plan. And you can fill it out, and you'll see it says in the safety plan, what's your communication plan? What's your cleaning policy? Where are you keeping it? So it's telling you to create these other policies that we discuss, and the contact log, and to do the cleaning daily and everything else. So yeah, so I want to just let you guys know. Let's see, we'll end on this one. This is the package if you don't want to have to make all these things yourself that I'm going to offer you. And also I have a 50 question Q&A on reopening included. So if you have a question about, oh, what happens if my employee this or that, I tried to cover it. It's very comprehensive. So it's somewhere that you can start before going to an attorney, even though I encourage you, if you're in a situation once someone has COVID, to get guidance so that you make sure it's handled the right way. But yeah, so we'll follow up with you guys if you're interested in this, or you can go to this link. If you order the package, it actually emails directly to you if you want that. So.
Well, thank you so much. I encourage everyone to reach out to Tiffany if you guys have any further questions. You have her email address. It was in the chat. If you have any questions, you know where her law firm is. And if you have any questions, you can email me and I'll just forward it right over to Tiffany. Thank you again so much for this presentation. It was so informative. And I'll reach out to you next week because we need to bring this back.
Yeah, and I think we should do the Family First Coronavirus Response Act leave too, because that's a big
I think that would be a good one too. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for participating. I hope this, you gained some great information. Of course I did. And we just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for supporting the Greater New York Chamber and Small Business Day. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Have a great day, everyone.